Hey guys, yeah, welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be drafting these blazers that you can see on your screen. So this is the pattern drafting tutorial. We'll start by drafting out the front pattern. To do that, I'm going to mark half inch on the center front of my pattern paper. So the buttons that you can see on the front of this blazer is just like a design. The front is closed because there's a zipper at the back of the blazer. So I'm marking this one in so that the front piece can overlap. Okay, so I'm marking half an inch and I'm going to connect all the way down to the length of my blazer. The next thing I'm going to do now is to mark my points. The first point is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 13 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my hip point, which is 25 inches. From that 25 inches, you are going to determine the extension that you want for the front of your blazer. I'm going to go down by 7 inches after my hip point. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and rule straight lines across all these points as you can see me doing. After doing that, go ahead and label your lines. The first line is the bust point. The second one is the under bust point. The third is the waist. The fourth is the hip, and the last one is the blouse length. Okay, so the next thing I'll do now is to take half of my shoulder measurement. I'm going to add half an inch to that measurement. Half of my shoulder measurement is 8 inches, but because I want to add shoulder pad, I'll be adding half inch to the measurement. Okay, that's it, to give room for my shoulder pad. So instead of marking 8 inches, I marked 8.5 inches. On that 8.5 inches dot, I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope and I slanted to the neckline area. So the next thing I did was to go down by half of my round armhole circumference, which is also my armhole depth. Okay, you can place your tape around your armhole, you measure it, whatever you have, you divide by 2. Another way to also get this point is to divide your bust circumference by 6 and then you add 1.5 inches to that measurement. Okay, so after doing that, I went ahead to rule straight lines across the armhole line. Okay, so this line is going to serve as my chest line. Okay, I didn't add the half an inch that I added on the shoulder line. I didn't add it on the armhole line. Okay, so I marked the 8 inches on the chest line. After doing that, I connected the two dots into a straight line. The next thing I did was to find the middle point of the straight line. I indicated that with a dot. On that middle point, I came in by half an inch. I also indicated the half an inch with a dot. After doing that, I placed my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line and I connected from the shoulder slope to meet the half an inch that I came in with, and then I connected to the dot on the chest line. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to place my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Half of my nipple to nipple measurement is 4 inches. So I marked 4 inches on the bust line, on the under bust line, on the waistline. And from the waistline, I came down by 4 inches and I connected the 4 dots into a straight line as you can see me doing. The next thing I'll do now is to take my dart. So I'm taking 0.75 inches on the center front and 0.75 inches on the side front, and on the bust line I'm going to come down by 1 inch. After doing that, I'll go ahead and connect. So if you're on a bigger side, you can do 1 inch on both sides of the dart leg. Okay, so after connecting my dart, this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to start placing my measurement. On the chest line, I already have my bust circumference divided by 4. On the under bust line, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll replace the dart. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll also replace the dart. On the hip line, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4 and I'll add extra 1 inch for ease. Okay, I'm going to add 1 inch to the hip. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and connect from the bust to the under bust, from the under bust to the waist, and from the waist to the hip as you can see me doing. Okay, so now that we are through with that, the next thing we'll do is to create the extension on the front part of the blazer. To do that, I'll open up the front of the blazers. Okay, so I'll come in from the center from by 2 inches. It depends on how open you want this opening to be. Okay, so for me, I came inward by 2 inches, and from the waistline I'm going to come down by like 2.5 inches. Okay, this 2.5 inches, I will extend it to the half an inch. Okay, remember all these measurements I've been taking, I've not extended them to the half an inch. So from the 2 inches, I'm going to connect to the 2.5 inches in a slant, as you can see me doing. Okay, you can see that the slant extended to the half an inch. So now that I've opened the front of the blazer, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect from my hip to meet the 2 inches. Okay, so this part is the long part of the front. Okay, so the front of the blazer has one part that is long and the other side that is short. So this is the extension on the front. Okay, on one part of the front. For the other side, I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the hip line, and I'll use the curved part of my ruler to connect it back to the hip line. If you want it straight, you can make it straight. Okay, so after connecting, this is what I have. The next thing to work on is the neckline. So for the neck width, I'll be using 2.5 inches because I don't want it to be too open. Okay, and for the depth, I'm going to come down by 3.5 inches. I'll indicate the 3.5 inches. After doing that, I'll connect the neck width to the neck depth like this. So next thing I'll do now is to create the design on the neckline. To do that, I'll place my tape and I'll mark 1.5 inches. Okay, so you see the way I'm placing my tape, I'm looking for 1.5 inches. Once I get 1.5 inches, I'm going to indicate the 1.5 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'll place my tape from the neck depth all the way to my chest line, and what I have there, I'm going to divide it into two. Okay, you can see me folding my tape into two to get the middle. I'm going to mark the middle with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to come out from that dot. Okay, the middle dot, I'll come out by 1 inch. I'll indicate the 1 inch, and on this part where I came up by 1.5 inches, I'm going to go out by about 1 inch. You can do 1.25 inches because I later changed it from 1 inch to 1.25 inches. Okay, so on this chest line, I'm going to come out by 0.75 inches. Okay, I'm going to mark that. Okay, so what I'll do now is to connect. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that this is on a straight line. So remember, I said I took 1 inch, but I'm going to later make it 1.25 inches. So I'm connecting with my ruler, but it's not giving me what I want. Okay, I'm just connecting this to this one, and from there to the chest line, but it's not giving me the shape that I want. So I'm going to use my free hand instead of using a ruler. Okay, but first of all, I'm going to make this particular one 0.25 inches. So let me explain again. I came out by 1.5 inches. I indicated the 1.5 inches with a dot, and then I divided what I have from the neck depth to the chest line by 2. I indicated the middle with a dot. On that middle, I came out by 1 inch, and on the chest line, I came out by 0.75 inches. So I'm changing this to 0.25 inches, and I'm also using my free hand to connect it because I want that part that I came out with to be really curvy. So I'll keep connecting till I get what I want. Okay, just connect everything together. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut. So pay close attention so you know where to cut. This pattern is what we'll be using to cut the two sides of the front. Okay, so for the neckline, I'll cut this part out, and then I'll cut this other shape out. Okay, so just connect the shape the way you want it and be creative with it. Okay, so after cutting, this is what I have for the front. For the back is very easy. We are basically repeating the same thing that we did for the front. So I added my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches to the back. Like I said, the opening for this blazer is at the back. Okay, and I went ahead to take my point. Distance from my shoulder to my bust point 10 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my waist point 16 inches. and the distance from my shoulder to my hip is 25 inches. The back is going to stop at the hip line. There is no extension for the back. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I added half an inch to it to give room for my shoulder pad to sit. So I marked 8.5 inches. On that 8.5 inches mark, I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope and I slanted into the neckline area. The next thing I did was to place my tape on the shoulder slope and I came down by my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. I already explained that. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to connect into a straight line. But before I do that, I'll make sure that I have the same measurement that I have on the shoulder line. The only difference is I did not add the half an inch, just like I explained earlier. Okay, so I'll label my lines: chest line, bust line, waistline, and hip line. The next thing I'll do now is to take my dart. To do that, I'll be taking half of my nipple to nipple measurement on the bust line, on the waistline, and from the waistline I came down by 4 inches. Okay, and I'll also mark the nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. After doing that, I'll connect the 3 dots into a straight line. So the next thing I'll do now is to take 0.75 inches on both sides of this straight line. So like I said before, if you're on a bigger side, you can do 1 inch on both sides, and if you're on a smaller side, you can do half an inch on both sides. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to go down from the bust line by 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect my dart like this. So the next thing I'll do is to mark my neck width. I used 2.5 inches for the front. I'll repeat the same thing for the width, and for the depth I'll be using just 1 inch for the back. So I'll go ahead and connect as you can see me doing. Make sure you extend it to the zipper allowance so it's easy for you when you're going to cut it out. So the next thing I'll do now is to place my measurement. Before I do that, I'll place my tape on this straight line and I'll divide what I have by 2. Okay, and then I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. I'll indicate that with a dot. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dot. And on the hip line, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4. And I'll add the extra 1 inch that I added to the front. I'll add it. This is for ease. We'll be adding our stitching allowance when we are cutting on the fabric. Okay, so I'll connect from the bust to the waist, from the waist to the hip like this. Okay, so the next thing I'll do now is to cover out my armhole. So from that middle, I'm just going to connect to the dots that I have on the chest line like this. Okay, so for this back, remember I came down by 1 inch on the shorter part of the front. I'll repeat the same thing here. I'll come down from the hip point by 1 inch, and I'll use the curved part of my ruler to connect it back to meet the other side of the hip. You can leave it straight if you want it to be straight. Okay, so I'll connect like this. After doing that, guys, I'm going to extend it to the zipper allowance area. Okay, so just go ahead and do that. So that is all for the drafting of the back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut. So pay close attention so you know where to cut. So after cutting, guys, this is what I have for the front and the back. The difference is the neckline and the extension at the front. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. I'll see you in the next one.